And yes, Mechanus, he wasn't wrong, unfortunately. Although, he wasn't wrong at the time. Now, it's taken them 15, 20 years, but gamers are finally starting to wake up, and now gamers will not buy anything. Not anymore. The Bethesda magic has started to go away. Now, will that change with the new Oblivion remaster? We shall see.
Oblivion had taken 4 years and a ton of cash. So ZeniMax says, hey, we should probably get something else going here. And Todd and the boys make a list. They go through various genres, but eventually, one rises to the top.
Thank you for 10 more gifted. Thank you so much. Have you even said anything in my chat yet? Have you even said a word in my chat? Hi. Hello. Thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope you're having fun.
Nuclear post-apocalypse. What Todd really wants to do is a Fallout, but getting the rights to that IP, highly unlikely. So they work on concepts for a new IP they were calling Apocalypse Road. However...
Wait, who owned the Apocalypse, for God's sake, who owned the Fallout, the license prior to Bethesda? I was, clearly mistakenly, under the impression that Fallout was always part of Bethesda. Interplay? Oh. Okay. Alright, I did not realize that. I was mistakenly under the impression that Bethesda always had it. And Mechanus, thank you so much for 10 gifted. Thank you. They were the OG. Okay. I was unaware of this. I've always associated Fallout with Bethesda. I had no idea. Like the one thing I did know about Fallout is like the first Fallout was like a top down. Hi. I remember the first Fallout was like a top down. I don't think it was necessarily an RTS, but I do know that it was like a top down game that had a similar look to an RTS. That's the only thing I know about early Fallout games. They were isometric RPGs? Okay. Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking of, the isometric. Okay. So they were RPGs, but they were... Okay.
At Interplay, Fallout's current rights holders, and finances aren't looking great. It's so bad that even been in talks to sell the series back to its original creators.
Inquisitor, go right ahead!
Turns out someone at Bethesda knows someone at Interplay, and they'd managed to sneak in a bit.
You don't need my permission.
And Todd and the boys managed to snag the whole franchise for around $6 million. Not bad. And with a dev team now of around 75 people, they get to work. This time round,
no, you don't. If you've got the Elder Scrolls Oblivion itch and you just bought it, you don't need my permission to go play your own game, guys. Be in my stream because you want to have fun. If your fun is playing Oblivion right now, go play Oblivion. Go for it. Greynos, I'm not sure. I am not entirely sure if I'd like to play the classic Fallouts. I'd have to look into it a little more, I think.
Has a bit of a task ahead of him. They're working with the same Gamebryo engine from Oblivion, meaning they now have to turn the bones of a hack-and-slash fantasy game into a dense, urban, post-apocalyptic shooter. They're building gun combat from scratch here, and on one of the jankiest engines out there. But after a few years, things start to come together, and the game's in the final stretch. So as is now customary, at E3 2007, Todd spawns on stage and runs us through the game.
We're ecstatic to show publicly for the first time here today, Fallout 3 demoed live. Let's take a look.
Okay.
Here we have an iBot broadcasting the word of the U.S. government.
I will fight to protect you. I am your president of law and order. They're eating the cats. They're
Oh
eating.
God.
And on the 28th of October 2008, Fallout 3 comes out. Now, the first two Fallouts generally considered two of the best RPGs ever made, so the bar
Okay.
for Fallout 3 pretty high, but Bethesda delivers on a few points. First off, they'd nailed the look and tone. Fallout 3 carries the aesthetics of the first two games into 3D well.
It was perfect.
Bleak and gritty,
Yeah.
retro
This is the one thing that Bethesda did really well. Bethesda absolutely created a sort of genre with this kind of gaming, because with the Fallout franchise, they kind of really pioneered the whole like atomic age apocalyptic landscape. Like I would say that with the majority of like apocalyptic landscapes that people had seen up to the point of Fallout 3 was like, it was apocalyptic, yes, but you didn't have that retro future style of like that retro future atomic age style that Fallout used. It was like, yeah, you had like sort of a cobbled together thing, and it was definitely sci-fi. I don't think a lot of the apocalyptic type games were as creative with their sets, especially with their weapons. Most of the apocalyptic stuff was like, okay, just regular, assault rifles or pistols, that people would just like pick up and use. But Fallout, I think, really dove head first into this unique style with the really kind of wacky weapons that you could get or craft, and not to mention settings, like seeing like this and the old 50s retro future or retro punk style set pieces, and that kind of stuff. Like, to my knowledge anyway, I don't think anybody had really done that before, and Fallout is kind of what put this style on the map, so to speak. And we've seen, I think at least a couple of games have tried to emulate it. What's that one I'm thinking of? Oh, suck. I can't remember its name. The one that takes place in Russia with the sexy robot ballerinas. Oh, fuck. What's it called? I can't think of it. What's the name of it? I don't think it was Atomic Heart. Yes, thank you, Silver. Yeah, so we saw it, like, we've seen it attempt to get emulated with games like Atomic Heart and BioShock. BioShock tried to emulate basically this same concept. BioShock just basically added an aquatic flair to the retro future style. And I think maybe they threw in a splash of steampunk. But it's all stemming from what Bethesda did with Fallout. They kind of set the tone for the post-apocalyptic or non-standard future kind of game settings.
futuristic, a dash of dark humour, and then that 2000s piss filter slapped on top. Chef's kiss. The soundtrack, this time by new composer Inonzer, a smash hit again. And if you're not a fan, just hit the new in-game radio and roam the post-apocalyptic wasteland, absolutely annihilating people to pleasant 40s jazz. The map has amazing environmental storytelling.
No.
You'll find
No, Seb, I fully appreciate that Bethesda didn't make the first two Fallouts, but Fallout 3, because it was three-dimensional and because it was 3D first person and not isometric, you were able to see that level of detail. You were able to get that level of immersion that you didn't really get in the original Fallout games. And no, I do appreciate that Bethesda didn't make New Vegas, but New Vegas came out after Fallout 3, did it not? If I remember, yeah. So yeah, okay, that's what I thought it was.
Skeletons at the vault door, remains of people pleading and begging to be let in and saved from this approaching doom.
And some pretty interesting locations, like a vault filled with endless clones of a man named Gary. And the Republic of Dave.
Okay.
I am Dave, President of the Republic of Dave. You will address me as Mr. President, or I will have you executed.
There's also slavery,
Okay.
Can you get us out of here? Thanks for nothing, ass.
ghoul racism,
You know anything about the tower? Oh, really? You goddamn bigot.
genocide,
Ah,
and political undertones. The gameplay, not amazing.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Janky, floaty movement, combined with awkward gunplay, can make for some horrific shootouts. So Bethesda
God.
adapts the VAT system from the first 2 games, meaning you can now pause the game, lock onto specific body parts, and blow people to pieces in cinematic slow motion. And the people
Yep.
love it. That's the good. Other aspects of Fallout 3, wild misses. Again, the game reuses a ton of voice actors, resulting in everyone sounding the exact same. One of your companions even has the same exact voice as every raider in the game. The combat AI
God.
sucks. They have no concept of cover, so they'll just strafe left and right and beeline straight towards you. And of course, the usual Bethesda jank. Game-breaking, quest-breaking,
God.
file-corrupting bugs, crashes, horrific performance on PS3, and the realistic
Jesus.
fractals return. There's also no field
Rubber
of
band.
view slider on PC, even though you can easily change it via console commands. Also, again, the RPG elements. Where are they? Some elements from the originals have come back. Drug addiction, the special system, perks, skills, and speech options. But even then, some of them are gimmicked. For starters, speech. The dialogue in Elder Scrolls games basically amounted to running up to someone and just shouting rumors at them. But this wouldn't cut it for a Fallout game, which had tons of choice and consequences in dialogue. And in Fallout 3, it's much worse. Fallout's original speech checks are subtle. The game doesn't actually show you speech options you haven't unlocked, and doesn't even tell you when it is a unique option. So you need to actually read and think about what you pick. In Fallout 3,
Interesting.
even if your speech isn't high enough, the system works on percentages. So either way, you still have a chance to succeed. Doesn't work the first time, just reload the game till it does. In 1 and 2, dialogue choices
God.
could make a major difference in the way things panned out, and would also often vary based on specific skills, special attributes, or traits. But for 3, Todd just said nah, let's stick with just speech, and a handful of instances with very select perks. Speech options in 3 are also far less consequential. The first 2 Fallout games were very
God.
involved.
Yeah, like, okay, I have a question. That whole thing of, like, so-and-so would remember that in Fallout, did that ever actually matter? Like, those scenarios where you would engage in, like, a speech thing, and if the NPC didn't like it, you get that pop-up that said so-and-so didn't like that. Did that end up actually I'm pretty sure it's also a Fallout thing, Silver. Like, did that actually have consequences at all? Like, did it change the way the NPCs would actually function? That only matters in the classic games and New Vegas, if you remember correctly. Okay, so in New Vegas, that level of, like, okay, that characterization, the characters would actually change in how they react to you if you know, and function with you if they didn't like something you did. And yeah, I vaguely remember it being a companion thing in Fallout 4. Okay, I was just curious about that, because like I said, I didn't play much of Fallout 4, and I played very little in New Vegas, so I wasn't sure if it made any difference.
Are also far less consequential. The first 2 Fallout games were very involved, in-depth RPGs
thank you,
with branching
Splug.
storylines, open-ended quests, and a ton of skill checks.
Wait. Splug, E2 as in private? Is in E2 private? Is that what you mean? Like you just got your promotion from E1 private to E2 private? Oh, congratulations! Next up, PFC. You're gonna get so much more responsibility. Just remember, Flood, remember? Stop when you get to E4. E4 Mafia or nothing, gamer. Just remember that.
With branching storylines, open-ended quests, and a ton of skill checks. Also, a ton of impactful decisions that shaped the world around the player and contributed to a ton of different endings. But, like for Oblivion, the quests in Fallout 3 very linear. You're on a fixed path for pretty much the whole game, and most quests have one outcome. And that one outcome normally involves this. The first games also allowed you to kill everyone in the game. Here, 1/3 of the characters are now unkillable. Before, you'd work to piece together breadcrumbs of information from NPCs, work out where to go and what to do, and the world and quests would open up organically from there. But in Fallout 3, again, they slap a quest marker on your screen, and you end up just following that for the rest of the game. The game is also very easy.
Okay, but correct me if I'm wrong, around the time that Fallout 3 came out, weren't a lot of games starting to do that? It was like perhaps the beginning of it becoming the mainstay that if you played an RPG type game, if you had a quest outside, even for games outside of Fallout, they would start slapping quest markers. Because people, I guess, were complaining that it was too difficult to find out where they were going. I think that was like, it's a common complaint these days. So I suspect that this was more Todd just kind of saying, well, it's in all of these big MMOs that everybody loves, so of course we should put it in our game too. So in that respect, I don't think that was Todd just saying like, okay, just making all these really stupid decisions. I think he was trying to follow the existing trend.
2, resources were scarce, and you had to plan accordingly. But not here. There are weapons and armor laying about everywhere, and it's not long before you're absolutely loaded with caps and ammo, and constantly over-encumbered. Bethesda adds enemy scaling again, meaning everyone on the map is roughly the same level as you. Both Fallout 1 and 2, and Oblivion and Morrowind, had joinable factions, but for Fallout 3, nah, leave it out. Can't join them, and there's not even a reputation system for them. Instead, they've just added the karma system from Fallout 2, and this is a bit flawed. Did you just steal a shoe?
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Well, the whole town is now coming to murder you. As a result of all of this, Fallout is essentially no longer an RPG. It's an action RPG with bad action. Also, by this point, key writers and designers dating back to Morrowind had begun to leave the company. Not good. So Todd sniffs around for replacements, and eventually, he lands on a bloke called Emil Paliarulo, the guy who wrote Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline. He's now head writer and designer. Sweet.
And he does... Wait, what?
He's now head writer and designer. Sweet. The Dark Brotherhood questline was really good, so that's a good choice. One problem. This guy's actually not great, and now he's no longer working on individual quests.
Wait, what did he say? The guy's not what?
He's actually not great, and now...
Did he say he's actually not great? Is that what he said? It was hard to understand what he was saying there. So this guy is actually not good. Okay.
And now he's no longer working on individual quests. More like the whole overarching story, character arcs, themes, choices, and consequences for the entire game. As a result, Fallout 3's story and quest design, very underwhelming. The entire main quest consists of just following the trail of your dad out in the wasteland, and then being bossed around by other people. It's completely linear, with only a couple of choices determined by a single press of a button right at the end. There aren't no choices in the game, See, Emil actually has a very big overarching question. Do you want to be extremely good or cartoonishly bad? Because those are your only choices. In 1 and 2, choices are generally nuanced. There are pros and cons to each option. But here, no. Here, you can absolutely annihilate this entire town with a nuke for basically no reason. Or not do that. A very real moral dilemma.
Well.
The characters are bland, and the writing is generally pretty terrible.
Ghouls living here? You're serious?
This is some dialogue from what's supposed to be the dramatic climax of the game.
Do whatever you want. There's no need for more violence. Then you will immediately hand over all materials related to this project.
What the fuck?
Run.
What is he doing in there?
Also,
oh
end
my
up nuking
god.
that whole town, killing everyone there for absolutely no reason.
That was the big climax. This guy is clearly dying of radiation. It's like, go on. You can leave now. I'm fine. And the doctor behind the glass is like, what is he doing? He's dying, you dumb bitch. That's what he's doing. He's dying.
Also, end up nuking that whole town.
Oh, that guy's dad.
There for absolutely no reason.
Very emotional.
This is your dad's response.
I have a hard time believing you. I raised you to be better than that. Better than the wastes.
That voice sounded quite familiar. It is him. Yeah, Grindhouse. As soon as I heard that, I went, is that Liam Neeson doing voice acting? Holy shit, they got Liam fucking Neeson.
Whole town, killing everyone there for absolutely no reason. This is your dad's response.
Honestly, I have a hard time believing you. I raised you to be better than that. Better than the wastes. We'll talk more about this later.
At the end of the game.
Oh, Liam. Oh, Liam, they did you so dirty. They did you so dirty, my guy. Oh, God. That was such a bad line read. Did he do multiple takes and they just took the worst one and said, yeah, good enough?
The story's supposed to culminate in the player sacrificing themselves in a chamber of radiation to save the wasteland. Hold on, I have a radiation-resistant super mutant right next to me. He can go in, save everyone, and then no one has to die.
I'm sorry, my companion, but no.
People complain, and writers eventually give in, spitefully adding this ending in with a paid DLC.
And so it was that the lone wanderer ventured forth from Vault 101, but the child refused to follow the father's selfless example.
The DLC also revives the...
Oh, fuck, that is backhanded. Oh, that is a big fuck you to players. If I paid money for this game and then paid money for the DLC that allowed me to use my super mutant to basically go in and take care of the job and not come to any harm, and I got the backhanded voiceover, he refused to be selfless like his father, I'd be like, go fuck yourself, Bethesda. That is so backhanded.
Refused to follow the father's selfless example.
The DLC also revives the player, making the whole point of the end of the game redundant. Also, fun fact about this DLC, the intro features a moving train sequence. But because the Gamebryo engine is so crusty, encoding in a moving train would have taken a while. The train is actually a piece of armor the player equips right before the cutscene. Anyway,
What?
The original Fallout games had a ton of different endings based on your actions. Here, Todd Howard had claimed an insane 200 endings for the game.
Everything gets a bit big, so as of last week, we're over 200 endings. That is not an exaggeration.
That sounds like a fucking lie, is what that sounds like. 200 endings. The lie detector test determined that was a fucking lie.
Fallout 3 had 2 endings. Regardless, the game does amazingly. First week sales of around 5 million. $300 million generated instantly.
You've got mail.
And despite the consistent dumbing down and streamlining of their games, Todd does it again. It wins Best RPG at the Game Awards, and a ton of Game of the Year awards at other places. Todd Howard is now 3 for 3.
Here we go.
The year is now 2010. Bethesda Game Studios is a team of around 100 people, and they're riding high. Both Oblivion and Fallout 3, big wins. Todd had found himself a golden formula here, and he wasn't changing it anytime soon. Now, it had been about 4 years since Oblivion, so the hype for the next Elder Scrolls, quite high. E3 2010. Todd emerges on stage.
Well, Grindhouse, they're probably not going to talk about New Vegas because New Vegas wasn't Bethesda. He's just going over the Bethesda properties themselves. So, my guess is because they had nothing to do with it, that it was all Obsidian, there's not going to be any mention of it. Even though New Vegas probably should receive a mention because the story in New Vegas was lauded much more highly than Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. No, the New Vegas was not Bethesda. Like, Bethesda might have been like, it might have been like the distributor, perhaps, but New Vegas was done by Obsidian, the studio Obsidian. They're the ones that did New Vegas. Basically, Bethesda was the publisher. They're the ones that sold the game, but they were not the ones who crafted it. No Dropkick, Bethesda did Oblivion. Obsidian only did New Vegas, and then Obsidian went on to do Outer Worlds after they did New Vegas.
Through a sea of vape mist. He weaves between a group of bald men in robes, while epic chanting music plays. This Todd seems different. He's sporting a slick brown leather jacket.
I love leather.
On his face, a sly smirk. Gone was the quiet confidence. Now, he's glowing. Anyway, Elder Scrolls V is about to be revealed. Wow. And they go on a marketing frenzy.
Whatever you say, Mr. Billboard.
A ton of television ads, expensive live trailers, and stuff like this.
They did go ham.
Material, Todd is getting increasingly unhinged.
When you walk into town, we can have it look for someone with a child. We can have that child kidnapped and put in a dungeon nearby.
Forget the dungeon, children. The game looks fantastic, and it's launching soon. People are very hyped.
Surely.
And on the 11th of the 11th, 2011, it's go time. For starters, the art direction here, incredible. Enemies, armor, weapons, and the huge snowy vistas in this game all look fantastic. And as is expected at this point, Jeremy Soul's soundtrack, perfection.
I'd say Jeremy's musical direction carried a big load for a lot of these games. Because let's face it, with games like this, the musical atmosphere does a lot of heavy lifting. And Jeremy, I'd say, did a fair bit of heavy lifting carrying this fucking game with his musical scores.
They even wrote a whole language for the game. And the main theme is written in both that and English, with identical meanings and rhymes in both. Factions are back, and this time you can actually join them again. There's also a massive civil war going on, and you can only pick one side. Choice. And there's genuinely compelling arguments on both sides. Nuance. What was going on? However, this is just a side quest, and as a result, not a massive amount of time and effort went into it. It's generally considered a bit rushed and lacking in depth. Also, first on Todd's agenda with this game, the engine. At this point, Gabriel had gotten a bit of a subpar reputation, quite outdated, with notable jank. Okay, let's actually bring this thing into the 21st century, boys. And they'd gotten to work on building and improving it. They slapped the creation engine on, and hoped for a clean slate. Despite the upgrades and rebranding, and this wasn't fooling anyone. The engine is still crusty, and as a result of its limitations, this is what a massive, countrywide civil war looks like in Skyrim. Also, the jagged ragdolls. still incredible. The map, not massive, but very dense, and a lot of fun to explore. The graphics, not as groundbreaking as Oblivion, but pretty decent. This time, the new engine allows dynamic lighting and shadows, better physics and ragdolls, and an improved animation system. And NPCs no longer look like melted cheese. Gameplay-wise, enemy scaling is still here, but much better. This time, it has minimum and maximum levels depending on location, so nothing is too hard or too easy. Better combat with smoother animations, cinematic kill moves, and improved magic casting. Dual wielding, dragons, pretty cool. And that awkward dialogue zoom from Oblivion, finally gone.
One of the things you've solved is the old crash zoom into a character's face when they start talking to you.
Solved as in took it out.
Yes.
Yeah, solved.
Some elements of the AI are also improved. The NPC's line of sight now comes directly out of their eyeballs, just like real life. This also means you can now pick up a bucket, slap it on someone's head, and blind them completely. Realism.
Oh my.
They'll also now search for you if you're using stealth. However, the AI here, not amazing. Just launched a massive fireball and wiped out half a group of bandits from behind a tiny rock. They'll conduct a massive manhunt for you. And then forget about everything in about 15 seconds.
Must have been the wind.
Immersive indeed.
Need something?
As you put an axe in his skull. Do you need something? Chat, it just works.
I'm going to find whoever did this.
However,
Found him.
in a few cases, Oblivion's AI is actually better. Turns out, this time round, Todd's groundbreaking and immersive Radiant AI had been dialed back a bit, and NPCs in Skyrim now rarely, if ever, actually talk to each other, outside of a few scripted moments.
Skibidi was fine until you rizzed along. Simpire was chill AF.
They also love talking over each other.
I'm always interrupting people.
Also, again, a ton of NPCs here are essential.
Ma'am, please die, grandmother. Oh, she's essential. Are you serious?
Todd's formula for game design was simple. Simplification. What could we cut? Streamline, trim the fat, and make this meat lean.
Oh boy.
And this didn't change
Hello.
for Skyrim. And the first thing on the chopping block? The character system. Attributes? Don't need them, mate. And in Skyrim, they're completely gone. Instead, players just choose to improve either health, stamina, or magicka on level ups. Classes and birth signs? Don't need them either. Skills? You didn't remove enough last time. Acrobatics, athletics, hand-to-hand, and more? In that bin, now. Now let's add a perk system, but no need to get too creative here. If you can't think of something cool, number go up will work just fine. And they were finished.
Oh, for God.
All of this results in no strategy to character creation and leveling, and different characters and playthroughs that feel very samey. The armor. In Oblivion, it's a bit more involved. It was split into helmet, greaves, cuirass, gauntlets, and boots, alongside a clothing and robe layer. However, all of this was far too confusing, so Todd decides to dumb it down. The greaves and cuirass.
To quote the internet historian, the AI is more A than I.
That actually sounds like a fair assessment. Yes, indeed.
Combine them. The clothing and robe layer can go entirely. Also, armor and weapons in Oblivion would get damaged over time, with the player either having to pay for repairs or repairing them themselves with the armorer's skill. But in Skyrim, no more. They also remove staffs, ability enchantments, NPC dialogue disposition, and the entire spellcrafting system gone without a trace. The writing.
Am I correct that the modders actually brought all of that back? Because to my understand, I thought I remember hearing something that the modding community basically just went, okay, Bethesda, you want to play fuck around and take all of this out? Cool. We're putting it right the fuck back in again. Yeah, that's... Like, again, we see the fallacy. is Todd is just like ripping out everything that made the game fun so they don't have to work hard and they can make all the money, and then all of the modders for fucking free are fixing their game. And this is why we were seeing the fallacy with Bethesda for so many fucking years. I get it's history repeating itself. They did it with fucking Oblivion back in the day. And they did it with Skyrim. Like, for God's sake, I first heard about the first time I heard about Skyrim was watching Henry's NXR mods videos, where he was showcasing the various mods put into Skyrim and Fallout. Like, that's how I first learned about the mods and learned about how fucking extensive the modding community works on these games. And it's they to some degrees, these modders actually like recreate, like they redo the fucking game. It's almost like taking the game and doing a complete reshoot on it for a lot of things. They're adding in whole fucking quest lines, whole lands and cities, new characters with fucking voice lines. I mean, for God's sake, like, Jeannie actually created her own NPC in Skyrim and ran fucking voice lines for it. And created her own fucking quest with Recorder. Hey, and yes, Henry and Jeannie are both still around, but they're on their Patreon only. They got booted off of YouTube. YouTube fucked over Henry and Jeannie royally, and now they're strictly on their Patreon, and that's it.
Emil Paliarulo is head writer again, and as a result, things are not great. The main quest, dragons bad, and they're back. A grave existential threat.
By my calculations, we have 5 years until the world ends. Fix it, now!
But other than right at the start of the game, and then a bit later on at a small tower, the dragons don't really actually bother anyone. In the main quest line, 90% of the time you're either clearing a dungeon, fighting a dragon, or searching for a powerful word. Side quests are a massive downgrade. In Oblivion, there are murder mysteries, paintings you can enter, dreams, and so on. Skyrim, not so much. Some good stuff here and there, but they're few and far between. A ton of them basically being fetch this, or that guy. NPCs in Oblivion acknowledge your actions as you progress. You just helped save a town down the road? Fair play, mate. Let me get you a pint. In Skyrim, just saved the planet from world-ending dragons.
Hang on this all day.
Yeah, alright, mate. No one asked. Also, you're fighting in a massive civil war,
bad.
And the main difference in outcome is the guards looking slightly different.
I don't know, they all kind of look the same.
You just slaughtered the whole continent's emperor. It makes literally no difference at all.
Nobody cares.
Add some boring dialogue, bland characters with no personality.
Do you get to the Cloud District very often? Oh, what am I saying? Of course you don't.
Goodbye,
and
then.
Called it a day.
I'm done. That's it. I'm out.
Then there's the general issues of the game. In Morrowind and Oblivion, factions are scattered across the map and in different cities. Here, they're isolated to one city each. Quest markers are back again, and are now even more prominent on screen. However, this time you can actually turn them off. Nice. But here's the thing. Due to the game's butchered journaling system, it's almost impossible for you to actually work out what to do or where to go without them, making this option completely pointless. At this point, even Bethesda could no longer ignore the bugs. So for Skyrim, they dedicated a whole team pre-launch to hunting them down. It worked perfectly.
Great job. Okay.
Skyrim came out in late 2011. This is also around the time YouTube begins to explode in popularity. And now bug compilations are popping up, and that famous Bethesda charm is being broadcast worldwide. Some bugs more charming than others. But it's alright. Bethesda kick back and relax, because at this point, they know fans will patch the game for them, and modders churn out the unofficial patch within a few months. And for the third time in a row,
Bingo!
some things Todd had claimed about his new game pre-launch, debatable.
I don't deserve this kind of shabby treatment.
See, they'd already perfected Radiant AI, so Todd decided on a new thing to show off, Radiant Quests. And Skyrim would feature an infinite amount of them, he tells us. We'd never run out of things to do, and he's not actually wrong.
It's probably a total waste of my time.
However, he also mentions Radiant Story.
Right, so we have this new piece of tech called Radiant Story.
This would be a system where these Radiant quests would be dynamically generated based on the unique factors of your playthrough, places you've discovered, quests you've completed, and previous interactions. Spend a lot of time with a particular NPC, they'll probably hire you for a hit, or you'll be hired to hit them. Todd tells us this system will also lead to strange random encounters. Just dropped a sword in the middle of a pub. Chances are, two guys are getting into a scrap over it, he tells us.
Questions?
Good at
Okay, just hearing all this would immediately has me going, no fucking way. The level of programming and writing that would be needed to make all of this possible, no chance. No fucking way would they be able to do this. Like, the level, the technology in general was not at a point that it could just, like, proceed, that it could generate all of these quests, all of these stories continuously. There's no way you could have done it back then. Like, so already, like, granted, like, I never heard about any of this when Skyrim first came out, but it's like, if I did, like, looking at it now, I'm thinking, there's no fucking way this would work. Because we've actually heard this kind of thing before with other games, where they say, oh, it's gonna just, it's gonna be continually adapting, and enemies are gonna continually adapt to what you're doing, and stories are going to literally get created out of what you do, and it's like, none of that ever happens. It's the whole thing of, and honestly speaking, Todd has not been the only games head, studio head to have said this. There have been plenty of game studios that have promised the fucking moon in terms of, like, story and content in their games. And when the game comes out, it's like, well, that was a lie. So he's not the only one to do this. Todd is not unique in bullshittery of this nature, to give an unfairness on it.
A particular skill, a random man may even come up to you and ask for training for it, or challenge you to a duel.
Training, eh? The real question is, can you fight?
None of this ever happens.
So that was a f***ing lie.
What we get instead is an endless wave of generic, procedurally generated, cookie-cutter quests that spawn basic, nameless NPCs into the game to kill or steal from. Fantastic. Also,
logs and trees and all the way up to distant mountains, and if you've played our previous stuff, you know that mountain is not just a backdrop. You can walk all the way to the top of that mountain.
True, but elusive.
Okay, Xanax, infinite guns and infinite quests and stories are two very different things. Okay, you're talking about infinite game assets versus infinite story creation and quest creation. That is very different.
Half the mountains in this game have nothing of interest on them.
Well, this sucks.
And there's no actual system to climb them. You'll have to stanky leg your way up a metric ton of ragged rocks, due to them not having actual pathways.
Stanky leg, push. Stanky leg, push.
Also, Todd definitely mentioned a working economy system.
We have a working economy that you can either do, you can actually sabotage this wood mill if you want.
And so am I going to be able to participate in that economy?
Slightly. It's kind of,
Naturally, on launch, people want to see this groundbreaking mechanic in action, so they try to decimate the local economy by attacking the local sawmill. Nothing happens, because this feature never existed in the game in any form. The modding scene for Skyrim, absolutely massive. Immersion mods, quest mods, survival mods, graphics mods, other mods. Todd and the boys
Hello,
see
Lover's
this
Lab.
and start brainstorming.
No way.
Yeah,
And a
here
few
we go.
years after release, Bethesda unveils their brand new idea, paid mods on the Steam Workshop. They tell us it's to financially compensate modders, but then it comes out that mod creators receive just 25% of the revenue here. Valve get 30%, and then 40% kicked up to the big guy. Also, due to the complete lack of moderation, the majority of mods on here, amazing. A ton are plagiarized from the Nexus, and even from the same Steam Workshop. Naturally, the whole thing is incredibly unpopular, and Bethesda and Valve are forced to backpedal. Despite the consistent dumbing down, removal of features, roleplay regression, terrible writing, relentless jank, and honeyed words from Todd. Again, the game does insanely well.
This is
Within
true.
2 days, it sells 3 million copies. A week, 7 million. A month, 10 million. Over.
Now, how much of those sales is because of the modders? That would be my question. Because I would suspect that at this point the modding community is well known. And I would say it is well known that the modding community fixes the fuck out of Bethesda's games. So how many people went in buying Skyrim knowing that it would get modded and that it would be a good game because of the mods? Exactly. It's Asgard, you said it there. It sold great in spite of Bethesda. And yeah, people were buying it literally just for the mods. I would say Starfield is the same. That people were buying Starfield literally because of the mods that they were anticipating to come out.
$500 million in the bank, and Bethesda Game Studios is now an institution. Skyrim, a cultural icon. To many, now the face of the open world RPG. Todd's 4th major game and his 5th Game of the Year award.
Thank you so much, everybody at Spike TV, everybody who supported this game, the whole team at Bethesda Game Studios. We've poured ourselves into this.
At this point, the man just couldn't miss. God Howard, people even say. Todd is now 4 for 4. A literal god. He could do no wrong.
Oh, there's gonna be a part 2. Oh, there's gonna be a part 2 to this story, chat. I can't wait for that part 2 to come out, and then we will have another 2-hour react. Because, God, I'm gonna have to split this one into 2 parts.